Now on this graph, let me shrink it a little. We are seeing, hold on here a second. We are seeing that this student is high here on the scale of periodic limb movement disorder. Periodic limb movement disorder is a condition where the student is kicking around and rolling around a lot in their sleep at night. And when they do this jerking of the limbs, and this can happen 5 times an hour or more. Usually it's not diagnosed unless it's happening on an average of 5 times an hour. But if that is happening, then it's waking the student either completely up, or it's waking them from their deep sleep into their light sleep, or maybe they're never even getting into their deep sleep because they're kicking around and it's waking them up into their lighter sleep levels. And I think you all know that sleep goes from very light sleep, which is stage 1, where the student is just barely falling asleep and they can still sort of hear things going on around them, but they're kind of sort of out of it, kind of that dazed state a little bit. And stage 2 is a deeper sleep where they're no longer hearing what's going on around them, but it's not. You want them to get into stage 3 and stage 4, which is deeper sleep, and then after that comes REM sleep. And when they're in those deeper stages of sleep, the body is doing wonderful things for this student. It's healing them. It's repairing their cells, their damaged cells. It's releasing all their important hormones and chemicals like your endorphins and things like that help you to have a good mood and be kind of emotionally stable. Your growth hormones are being released in those stages. And so this is very ideal. And if a student doesn't get enough of those deep sleep stages during the night, they should go into that deep stage, those deeper stages, about 3 or 4 times a night at least. And they cycle through this stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and then REM, and then back to 1, 2, 3, 4, REM. They cycle through that about every 90 to 100 minutes. And so really, if they're cycling through that, if they're sleeping 8 hours, which we hope they would be, they should be cycling through that a minimum of 3 or 4 times a night. So people that don't sleep well and are not getting into these deeper stages enough will start developing a lot of mood and emotional types of symptoms. They could start getting sicker and develop things like cancer, diabetes, heart attacks, various things. So anyway, with periodic limb movement disorder, this one is a sleep disorder that's harder to diagnose in a sleep lab, like with an overnight polysomnography, because with periodic limb movement disorder, some nights the child may kick around really a lot. Other nights they may have a relatively peaceful night of sleep and get a fairly good night's sleep and not kick around hardly at all. Now, so these kids maybe 3 nights a week or 4 nights a week they're kicking around a lot, and maybe another 2 or 3 nights they're not. So if that student is sent for a sleep study, an overnight sleep study, on one of those nights that they're having a fairly peaceful night of sleep, then they're not going to catch it. They're not going to diagnose periodic limb movement disorder. They're going to miss it. So really, sometimes the parent rating scales on the SDIS are more accurate than an overnight sleep study. And if a student is, I don't care whether they're in this milder range, well, he's getting up to the top of the mild range, or if he would be up here in this more severe range, sometimes there are sleep equipment like actigraphy, which is kind of like a watch that they can hook onto the child's arm or leg and see their movements, their limb movements for 3 or 4 nights at the child's home. This would be something that's conducted at home. So, sometimes something like that is more accurate. They have some new things coming out, home study types of equipment that appear to maybe be more accurate for periodic limb movement disorder than an overnight sleep study with polysomnography. So that's something to consider. Also, this problem can be caused by the child having a deficit in serum ferritin. Serum ferritin is a chemical in the blood, in the iron, and it helps the body to use the iron efficiently in the body. So a student could have a fairly normal iron content but be low on serum ferritin. That is something that the pediatrician can check out easily if the parent just takes the kid in and says, would you please do a blood test on my child and see if they have an average amount of serum ferritin. And so that's something that I would recommend way before a sleep study, especially an overnight sleep study. And basically, I gotta think here that I say this right. The child this serum ferritin deficiency occurs in about 1/4 of the children who have periodic limb movement disorder and ADHD. These kids typically have ADHD. It almost goes hand in hand. And so I would check that out, the serum ferritin. But you've got to remember that about 75% of the kids, that's not going to be the problem. And they may need a medication to help with this kicking around, this periodic limb movement disorder. And there are various medications they use. Things like Neurontin is probably one of your safest and long. It's been on the market for years upon years and showed almost no side effects. There's Mirapex, although some kids it causes racing heart and things like that. So I'm not even sure if they have accepted that for children. They use it more in adults. Anyway, your doctors would know which ones would be best for a child, but you might want to try that. Parents may want to try that out for a month and see if that improves the periodic limb movements before they go on to things like an overnight sleep study. And you can see here that this periodic I'm going to say PLMD for short. The PLMD is causing the child to have some excessive daytime sleepiness because they're not getting enough deep sleep at night. And these two together are putting that overall sleep disturbance index right at the bottom of the caution range. So it's affecting that child somewhat, both daytime and nighttime. It's not severe yet here because this is not severe, but once it gets up into this area, you're going to see the overall scale go up too. But that's periodic limb movement disorder.